everybody, and this will be a big combo video. I'm going to talk a little bit about Survivor Series, a little bit about Raw, and a little rant that I've wanted to do for a while. And past week, something happened, which, let me kind of go off on it. So, let's just go over Survivor Series and Raw kind of in one big fail swoop. I say this because, of course, Survivor Series led directly into Raw, and in many ways, probably the end of Raw probably should have been what the end of Survivor Series was, but we'll get into that another day. But anyways, so Survivor Series to me was okay, I would say. The undercard was very good, but then the rest of the card was lackluster, to say the least. They start off with Daniel Bryan, taking on Ted DiBiase in a match that this might have been Ted DiBiase's best match he's been in. I thought this was a very good match. Really enjoyed it. Again, Daniel Bryan having the best match on a pay-per-view. That's not so surprising, is it? I don't think so. So, went out there. They had a pretty good match. Sheamus and John Morrison had a pretty good match. A good match, actually. And Dolph Ziggler and Kaval had a really good match themselves. So, that was all good. And even the Survivor Series match I thought was good. I thought they went out there and gave it time, and particularly with the guys in there. You didn't need to, there wasn't enough talent, I would say, to really go out there and do. I guess there may have kind of been, but you had Chris Masters and Kofi. Well, you had Kofi and you had Ray and MVP. And I guess for the most part, you just could have went a little longer, but it seemed to go long enough. He was booked pretty well. My only real complaint would be, Big Show knocking out Del Rio. That was kind of my only big complaint, and then him not coming back. That was kind of that would be my only really gripe with the match. But I thought the match was good, and then it kind of just fell off, from there. We had the women's match, which was okay for a women's match at best. We had Edge and Kane, which was, wasn't very good. We had the tag team title match, which was supposed to, bring the crowd down from the great, Kane Edge match, and this match was, pretty much just a comedy type match, considering who was in it. And then we had Randy Orton and Wade Barrett with, John Cena as the special referee. And really, this match didn't even need to be, I would say, great to save this pay-per-view. It just needed to be really good with a great ending and some really great booking at the end. I think the match could even have been good, and still, I think a really great ending to this match would have saved it. Instead, we got kind of the safe way out with John Cena costing Wade Barrett basically the title, and then everyone John Cena saying his goodbyes, and that was kind of the end of the show, which was okay. I mean, it was good, but it wasn't enough to really save the show, in my opinion. I wouldn't say this was a good pay-per-view. I'd say it was an okay pay-per-view, only because of the undercard. The undercard was really good. The main event, though, was very lackluster, and most of the top of the card was just not done well at all, which led us directly into Raw. And on Raw, we had, they did the King of the Ring stuff, and I thought the King of the Ring stuff was pretty good. They actually talked about, these were the Raw King of the Ring guys, and then we're going to see the SmackDown, who's going to be in the SmackDown version of the King of the Ring for next week's Raw. So that was kind of good. They talked about the fact that, this would, John Cena and all of that. And I did like all of the King of the Ring matches for the most part. I thought they did a pretty good job. Ezekiel Jackson being in it does kind of scare me. But, Sheamus, Ezekiel Jackson, Daniel Bryan, and John Morrison all being in them, I think that's the. I have a feeling that Sheamus will win. Maybe not. I can hope so. I mean, I can see him winning, and then him, being crowned king, and then, Triple H coming out and saying, he's the King of Kings or something stupid like that. But we had all of that, and then we had Randy Orton versus Wade Barrett, with John Cena now gone. And of course, John Cena came back, slithered his way in, beat up Wade Barrett, cost Wade Barrett the title again, left, but the damage had been done to Randy Orton. And then The Miz comes out and finally cashes in the Money in the Bank, which I will say this, and it's kind of this, they redid, and even though they didn't get as much time on this show, Ted DiBiase and Daniel Bryan, I do think they had, for the time they were given, they probably did as best as they could. I mean, literally, it felt very much, it felt like the match from last night, even though it wasn't. And so that was good, and I think, I wish they could have gotten the full match, because, it's amazing. You let him go out there, you let Daniel Bryan go out there, you let him wrestle, you let him do his thing, and amazingly, he's starting to get over with the fans. So, that's good. And also, I think, should The Miz have won the title on the pay-per-view? Maybe. That said, probably more people, well, definitely more people got to see this and win the title here. Seemed like kind of a big deal. Seemed more like a surprise. So that was good. But, when you add in Raw, and then you look at kind of how lackluster, Survivor Series was, it even makes it that much more lackluster, even with the good undercard. And that's kind of very unfortunate. But, that's kind of, I guess, the way things are now. They did do a good job, of showing, when John Cena basically said his goodbye in the middle of Raw, they did a good job of panning to the crowd. Some of the crowd didn't care. Some of the kids were, kind of upset. And then when Miz won, that was even better. There's a girl that you'll probably see pictures of her where she just had this look of like Satan towards the Miz, and there was a couple other kids they showed, which is always kind of funny to see in my opinion. But yeah, I mean that's kind of what we got as far as that, and we'll have to see where it goes with Money in the Bank. I know I didn't get to talk a lot about going into Survivor Series, but I didn't think the build to Survivor Series was all that great. Again, this is a major pay-per-view for WWE, and basically they threw the undercard together at the last minute again. They really need to build up the undercard. I think doing that would help them out to a degree. I think that just, if you have the full card, that's a good thing. And WWE just doesn't seem to care about that for whatever reason. I'm not sure why. It just seems very stupid to me, but oh well. But, I guess, what are you going to do type of thing. So now, on to the rant. And the rant is, for those of you who probably already know, Shad, formerly of Cryme Tyme, was let go by the WWE this following week, as were a bunch of other guys. Of all the guys, because I'm sure it'll be asked, of guys, should any of them go to TNA? Maybe Lance White should go back to TNA. Only if they got rid of who? Morgan? Yeah, Morgan? Yeah, only if they got rid of Morgan, just to save money. I could see that. But other than that, really nobody. But that pretty much put a, complete kibosh of Cryme Tyme ever coming back, which is kind of sad. A lot of people have heard me talk about the fact that, I've not been happy with the fact that they broke up Cryme Tyme. First of all, I liked the gimmick. I thought the gimmick was enjoyable. People can think what they want about that, but I did. I thought it was funny. And I also, to me, it was pretty hilarious to see these two street guys, and their intro was done by a definitely, proper white guy coming out trying to be all hip. The whole thing I just thought was fairly entertaining. On top of that, they were pretty much over from their debut. And, these were two guys that could do segments with DX and hang with DX. These were guys who, once they were let go for their own fault, they got let go, and then were brought back. And they were brought back on the Raw on, after WrestleMania 24, which is a big star-studded Raw. And they got one of the, arguably the second biggest pop of the entire night on that Raw. And And yet, WWE never found anything to do with them. It was like, oh, who cares, this, that, or the other. And I've never understood it. I probably never will understand it. You know, it's like you have guys that are finally over, and then, oh well, what are we gonna do? The idea is to push guys that are over, and yes, these guys were never, as a tag team, were they a great in-ring tag team? No, but they were enjoyable. They were a tag team you could build other tag teams around because people cared about them. They were good enough in the ring to have at least good to great matches. Maybe they wouldn't have great matches, but they could have good to great matches. And honestly, for tag team champions in WWE, that's probably all you really need. And, you know, I love tag team wrestling, but really, if that's maybe all you really need. You don't need necessarily great matches out of your tag team wrestling. You can probably get it from somewhere else, and particularly if the guys are enjoyable, and the guys are over, and the guys are selling, and the guys, people are willing to spend money on the guys. I just don't get it. It really falls into that kind of, you know, WWE just, it makes me wonder if they even listen to what the crowd pops for, instead of trying to, you know, shove guys down people's throats, you know, so to speak. I mean, you compare the fact that Cryme Tyme debuts mad over. Sheamus has been pushed down everybody's throats, and, you know, he's over, but he's not as over as you would think he would be. You know, so, or a guy like Drew McIntyre, I mean, come on, that guy's been pushed down everybody's throats too. I mean, yes, it's on SmackDown, but still. A guy like, you know, Del Rio is far more over than Drew McIntyre has ever been. So it's really kind of, you know, makes you wonder about what they are thinking about and what they do when they evaluate talent and try to figure out, you know, what to do. But anyways, again, Survivor Series was okay at best. Yeah, it was probably solidly okay, I should say. I shouldn't say at best. It definitely wasn't good, though. But, anyways, there you go. I'll be back tomorrow with some ROH.